Last year my 35F in-laws tragically passed away in a car accident, leaving behind a huge amount of inheritance to me, my husband, 35M, and my kids, 7F and 5M. My father-in-law had his own business and my mother-in-law was a lawyer. Throughout their lives, they always saved up every penny they could. My husband and I earn enough to live a very comfortable life, so we planned to spend the money on our kids' education and future. But when my parents got to know about the inheritance, they made other plans. My parents got to know about the inheritance at my in-laws' funeral and they approached me right after all the guests left and demanded I share the inheritance and split it in half with my sister Maya, 37F. According to them, she deserved a break after her terrible divorce, but she could not pay for it herself because she did not have a job, so as her sister, I should pay for her vacation. Growing up, Maya was always the golden child. She was always a straight A student, always participating and winning every competition. And she had like a million friends. I, on the other hand, barely ever participated in anything. I always kept to myself, but I was also a straight A student. Even though I never really cared about any of this, one thing that made me a little sad was the fact that our parents always preferred her over me. Before Maya, my mother had 3 miscarriages and she was told by the doctors that she might not be able to carry her own kids, but eventually, she got pregnant again and she gave birth to Maya. She became the miracle baby who finally made them parents, and by the time I came along they did not care that much anymore. They already had their perfect daughter. I spent a lot of my childhood comparing myself to her and trying to be like her. I thought maybe my parents would like me better if I was more like her, but they never did. Whenever I scored the highest in class, they would just say something like, "Oh, good job." But whenever Maya even received a participation certificate, they would frame it and keep it on display around the house. Eventually, I just realized I would never be good enough for them, so I kind of accepted it and moved on, and I started focusing more on myself. Maya graduated from school, and she did amazing. She was the valedictorian and everyone was very happy for her. And obviously she got into an amazing Ivy League college, graduated from there, and started a business with her boyfriend using our parents' money. The moment she started making some money, she moved in with her boyfriend and completely cut off our parents. We did not know where she lived or worked, we did not have any contact with her, and we did not even know who her boyfriend was. This completely broke my parents' hearts. Both were in complete shock. They never thought their golden miracle child would ever just abandon them and leave. They were in complete denial for the longest time. Then they just acted as if nothing had ever happened and everything was perfectly fine. 2 years after this, Maya returned and our parents were overjoyed that their daughter was back, but that was only momentary. A few days after her return, she sat down with our parents and asked them to lend her some money for her business. She promised she would pay them back and they gave her way more than she asked for. Everyone was happy, but then the next day Maya was gone again. Over the years we heard stuff about Maya, but she never reached out to us, never called, never even sent a postcard. But last year, after 15 years of no contact whatsoever, she showed up, unannounced, to our parents' house. They were shocked to see her, but they let her in and she told them about whatever happened in all those years. She got married to her boyfriend, and the business was going really well at first. They were making a lot of money, but eventually, the business failed for whatever reasons and both she and her husband were jobless and they grew distant over time. Apparently, he started spending his nights at bars with his friends and she was always left alone at the house, and she ended up cheating on her husband with one of his friends, which resulted in a nasty divorce and a lot of drama. She came back because she did not have any money or a job or a place to crash and she was hoping she could move in with our parents again. Without giving it a second thought, they let her move back in after she had been gone for 15 years, and honestly, I was not even surprised. Then at my in-laws' funeral, they asked me to give her half of our inheritance because she deserved a break after her divorce and she could not pay for her vacation because she was broke and had no source of income. I laughed at their faces and I refused to give her anything. I let them know that the money we received was completely for our kids, and if they have a problem with that, then it is just too bad. My mother screamed at me and said things like I owe them this because they raised me and they looked after me all my life, and if I did not give Maya the money, they would completely cut me and my family off, and so they did. I do not care that they cut me off, but I genuinely feel very bad for my kids because they love their grandparents, but there was really nothing that could be done. Around 6 months after this incident, I received a phone call from my mother and I figured that she was calling about my sister, so I did not bother to pick up the call. The next day I received a call from my father, which was extremely confusing because he has almost never called me unless it was an emergency, so I picked up the call, and without wasting a second, He went on talking about how Maya got a new boyfriend and she took a lot of money from them, left their house and cut off all contacts with them again. He said she had been gone for 2 months now and that he and mother wanted to meet me for lunch to apologize for cutting me off. He tried to convince me to let them back in my family's lives, but I had absolutely no interest in any of this. So I waited for him to get done and I told him that it would not be possible for them to be a part of our lives anymore, and I cut the call. Maya leaves and comes back and leaves again. This is her pattern. And my parents only love me and my family when Maya chooses to ghost them. This is their pattern. I am always the support system, always the only one picking up their pieces after their favorite daughter breaks their hearts and steals their money. But I just cannot do that anymore. I am done. But I feel like at some point I am also abandoning them, and I feel terrible about that. I do not know if not letting them back into my life is the best thing to do, but at the same time, I feel like this is the only thing I can do to preserve my peace. This is very conflicting. Ida for not letting my parents back into my life? Update 1. Hey, so it has been a month since my father reached out to me, trying to convince me to let them back in our lives, and even though I was clear to my parents about not wanting them back in my life, they have been desperately trying to get in touch with me, but I have been ignoring their calls and messages. So now they have been calling my husband almost every day trying to make him understand that they're genuinely sorry about cutting us off. He doesn't support them at all, but he feels a little bad for them so he hears them out whenever he can. He knows about everything that has ever happened, and I spoke to him about what I decided. I told him I was having second thoughts about cutting them off, but he thinks I should not change my mind if I feel so strongly about this situation. My parents mentioned that they apparently miss me because I was the only daughter who truly cared about them and looked after them, and that they are sorry about neglecting me as a child and they want to make up for it. I really do not care anymore. I know they do not mean any of these things, and the second Maya shows back up they'll forget about me and discard me like always. If they genuinely wanted to make up for anything, they should have tried when there was time, but it is just too late now. I want nothing to do with them anymore. My kids have been a little upset about not seeing their grandparents, but I think they can understand that something went wrong between us. I would not mind if my kids eventually want to have a relationship with their grandparents, but as of now, I prefer having no contact with them. I need this time to process everything and decide what to do next. Update 2. Hi, it has been almost 4 months since my parents reached out to me, trying to convince me to let them back into our lives, and it has been a while since my husband stopped picking up my parents' calls, but they never stop trying. Every time they call, my kids ask me why we do not go to meet grandma and grandpa anymore, and I never really know what to say to them. I finally broke down and picked up my mother's call the other day. I heard her crying over the phone. She somehow managed to catch her breath and told me how much she misses me and my kids. I kind of felt bad for her after hearing her crying voice. I agreed to meet her and my father over lunch at a nearby restaurant. I met them the next day, and they were almost too sweet. They had never been this sweet or friendly with me. I was expecting screaming, crying, blaming, and a lot of cursing, but to my surprise that is not how our conversation went. My father apologized for everything that has happened to date. He said he felt terrible about neglecting me, and that he understands he should have been a better father to me. My mother was mostly quiet throughout the lunch, which was very out of character for her. All she said was that she was sorry for everything and that she should have prioritized me more. The rest of the lunch was a little awkward with my parents trying to be extremely sweet and nice to me, but every bit of it felt fake. I could not shake off the feeling that they would run away the second Maya returned, so my mind was already made. Before leaving they asked me if I would be reconsidering letting them back into my life, and I told them that I would not. They did not say anything else and left. I hope I will finally be able to live a life without any drama that involves my sister or my parents. Update 3. So, it has been a month since I finally met my parents again and let them know that I am not interested in letting them back into my life, and they seemed alright with it, but I was obviously wrong. When I told them I did not want them back in my life, they heard if they tried hard enough, I would let them right back in. They have been constantly calling me and my husband. We have blocked them everywhere, and they have new numbers to call us with. I got tired of this constant annoyance and I picked up my mother's call and I told her that I was not interested in having them back in my life for now. I told her I needed some space and time to think and I would contact them when I was ready to talk, and in the meantime, they should not try to reach out to me unless it was an emergency. I also warned her that if they do not stop bothering me and my family like this, I will file a restraining order against them, which finally made them stop calling us all the time. My kids do not ask about them anymore. I think they understood that I got a little upset every time they spoke about them, so they stopped. To be honest, I miss them. They are my parents and I've spent a very long part of my life around them, but I am just so tired of being the discarded one. I think I deserve to have a family that truly loves me and isn't just after me for their own benefit. Maybe eventually we'll be able to talk again, but I cannot do that yet. I need a lot of time away from them. Also, many of you wanted to know about my relationship with Maya. Well, we were never close, but she was my older sister, so I always looked up to her. As a kid, she was this huge deal for me. She was perfect in my eyes as well. I wanted to be like her. I used to copy everything she did for the longest time. I admired her. But she did not like me that much. She always tried to make me feel terrible about myself. Every time I felt good or even alright about something, she was there to make me feel terrible about myself. She would always remind me that I was ugly, I had acne, I was unpopular, and that I would never be able to match up to her. And every time I told my mother about whatever Maya said to me, she would just laugh it off by saying something like, "Oh, she's just your sister. She doesn't mean it. She's just joking." Maybe she was joking. Maybe that's just what siblings do. But what about the part where it hurt me? The person I looked up to and admired so much always said such terrible things to me. All of this was still fine, but she made out with my first boyfriend, and that ruined every speckle of love and admiration I had towards her. I was 14 when I got my first boyfriend. Maya was 16. He came over one day and she was there as well. I went to the kitchen to do something, and came back to catch them making out on the couch. I was very angry at him, but that was not the worst part. My very own sister broke my heart into a million pieces. Why would she do that to her younger sister? And it did not stop there. Whenever I liked a boy, she needed to get with that guy, and every time I had a boyfriend, she made passes at them. So, the pure admiration and love I had for my sister turned into nothing but disappointment, anger, and hatred. So, every time she did something terrible, I was not surprised. Update 4. Hi, it has been 3 weeks since I last spoke to my mother, and I was honestly so dumb thinking she would understand what I meant by emergency. So last night as we were about to sit for dinner, someone rang the bell. We weren't expecting anyone, so we were confused. My husband got up and opened the door and he called out to me. I went up to the door and there my parents were, and so was Maya. My father was holding a bottle of wine, my mother was carrying some food, and Maya was just standing there. They all looked so happy, and my mother screamed with excitement stating Maya was back. I could see that. She was standing right in front of me with that annoying grin on her face. They invited themselves in and headed right towards the dining hall. I kind of just froze right in front of the main door because I could not understand what just happened. After a few seconds, I followed them into the dining hall and I saw my parents hugging my kids, who seemed a little uncomfortable. I stopped my parents and I took the kids upstairs to their rooms and asked them to play with their toys for now, and I told them I would take them downstairs for dinner in a while. The kids went on to play and I went downstairs into the dining hall where my parents and my sister made themselves comfortable. I asked them what they thought they were doing and they acted all clueless as if nothing had happened and they did not know what I was talking about. All they could say was Maya is back. It took a lot of strength in me to keep my cool and be calm, whereas in reality, I wanted to scream and tear their heads off. They were so happy about their beloved daughter Maya being back that they completely chose to ignore the fact that she had stolen from them and abandoned them thrice and is quite literally a flight risk. If she saw a guy walking on the road and she thought he was cute, she would not think twice before stealing from them and running away again. But my parents were blind when it came to Maya. She could do no wrong in their eyes. It is all right that she stole and ran away. It can be forgiven and forgotten completely. I just could not believe them. Are they really that blind? Could they really not see her pattern? Anyway, they went on talking about how their darling daughter Maya was in a very serious relationship with this married man who promised he would marry her and give her everything she wanted. He asked her to move in with him, and he made her pay the house rent all the time, which she did with our parents' money, but he was never around and always too busy with that wife of his, so she got bored and she cheated on him with another man. Then the married guy broke up with her, so she moved in with the other guy, who had a stable job and used to earn a decent amount. But Maya did not have a job, so she used to sit around at home doing absolutely nothing. Eventually, she got bored of this guy as well and she cheated on him with his younger brother. When the guy found out about this, he broke up with her and kicked her out. After all of this, Maya came back to our parents, and they welcomed her with open arms. Of course, they did. What else did anyone expect? Even after all of this, after everything she did, to our parents, she was the definition of perfection. I knew for a fact Maya would leave again, and that would crush them, but the only difference would be that I would not be there to help them out anymore. This incident made it very clear that this loop is never ending. There's no way out of it. The only thing I can do is keep myself and my family out of this. I did not even try to be nice to them anymore. I just asked them what they were expecting from me, and they looked very confused, as if nothing had happened. And I was just so done with all of it at this point. I just asked them to get out of my house. I did not care if it was humiliating for them or about anything. It was late. My family hadn't been able to have dinner because of their intrusion. and I just wanted them to be gone. I was so tired that I even promised them I would meet them at their house for lunch whenever they wanted me to. I just needed them to leave my house at that very moment. They were satisfied with my proposal. They said I should come over the next week and I agreed, and they finally left. I will let you guys know what happens at lunch. Update 5. Hey guys, so I went to my parents' house for lunch the day before yesterday. I needed a day to process everything that happened at their house. So, I somehow dragged myself out and drove myself to their house. I went in and sat down in the living room and Maya sat right in front of me. It was awkward because no one was speaking. Then my mother came in and let us know that the food was served and that we should join them at the dining table. Then my father started trying to make conversation with me. He asked me about my husband, my kids, my job, and other similar things. After some chit-chat, everyone was quietly eating for a few minutes. Then my mother started speaking. She went straight to the point, and the point was the inheritance again. The reason they'd been contacting and bothering me and my family for almost a year now was the inheritance. They demanded I give half of it to my sister, or as they called her, their golden child. According to them, my sister deserves that money. She has been through hell and the only way she would feel better is if she got half of the inheritance. I reminded them that the inheritance is being kept for the kids and their future. It will be used for their education and whatever else they require. I also said that my sister did not deserve the money at all. On top of that, she did not even know my in-laws, let alone deserve their hard-earned money. My mother just said that it doesn't really matter and Maya did not need to know them to get their money. I was already pretty angry and annoyed with them, but I still tried my best to keep my calm and be civilized. I reminded them again that the money was for the kids, and me and my husband would use it for their schools, colleges, and whatever else they needed. After hearing this, my mother had the audacity to say that I would be wasting the money if I spent it on my kids because they couldn't pour water out of a boot if the instructions were on the heel. This is where I absolutely lost my mind. My kids really love their grandparents, and this is what their grandparents had to say about them. I was already so done with them, but there may have been a chance of us reconciling sometime in the future, but her saying things like this about my kids was crossing every possible boundary I had. I completely lost it and screamed at all of them. I called out my parents for being the worst possible parents to me. I told them how I felt about everything, how I felt about them always prioritizing Maya over me, how she always messed up and was never punished for anything. But on the other hand, even if I did not do anything, I was always screamed at. Nothing I did was ever good enough for them, but their darling daughter, who abandoned them time and time over, was treated like a princess and given everything she ever wanted. At this point, I was bawling my eyes out, and I stormed out of the house and drove back. I blocked them from everywhere and they have not tried to reach out to me in any way, and I am really hoping it stays like that. I am extremely tired of this, and if they try to reach out to me again, I do not really know what I will do. Update 6. Hi again. It's been a couple of weeks. I had some time to cool off and think about whatever happened, and as much as I had hoped that my parents would stay away, they did not. They showed up at my house again last week, just the parents, no Maya in sight. This time they were not as cheery and excited as they were the last time. They looked sad, and I figured out what happened. Maya left, so the backup daughter was now needed. Unfortunately, the backup daughter was not available this time around. I did not let them into my house. I went out on the front porch and closed the door behind me so that they could not enter. I did not want them anywhere near my kids. I asked them what they wanted, and my mother started crying and telling me how their favorite daughter, who could do no wrong, left again. I think she expected me to be surprised and she did not like it when I laughed at her. I mean, what did they expect? They thought Maya would stay? That was probably the funniest, most unrealistic thing I have ever heard. My mother could not tolerate my behavior and started screaming. She forgot that she was not inside the house, and she said all sorts of things. She blamed me for Maya running away. I asked her what she meant, and she said if I had just shared the inheritance in half and let her have her much needed break, she would still be here, living with them, and they would be the happy family they always wanted to be. This made me laugh even more. I asked her what she thought Maya would have done with so much money. Did she think her favorite daughter would have used that money to make their lives easier in any way? Because anyone who has even heard of her would be able to guess that she would have taken that money, and she would have never returned or even looked back. While my mother was screaming and crying and blaming me for everything, my father was just standing there with a sad face. Throughout this whole thing, he did not utter a single word. He kept staring at the ground. After my mother was done rambling on about everything, he spoke up. To my surprise, he said he was done waiting for Maya, and that he realized that there was nothing I or anyone could have done that would make her stay back. Every time she got a guy, she ran away with them and he was done taking her in. He said the only reason he kept letting her come back and live with them was because my mother always begged him to do so. She always reminded him about the fact that Maya was their first child, the one who made them parents. But I did not believe a word he said. Even if this was what happened, he always seemed overjoyed by the fact that Maya was back, and he never tried to stop my mother from demanding that I give up half of the inheritance to her. I told him I didn't believe him and he looked disappointed by that. After everything that has gone down, how am I supposed to believe any of these things? They don't make any sense if he was so against it. He could have spoken up about it. He could have stood up for me. He could have been a good father to me, but he was not. Even after all of this, they asked to see the kids once before they left, and there was no way I would let them meet the kids again, especially after what they said. I politely asked them to leave, and I let them know that I would be filing a restraining order against them. I have given it time. I have waited and hoped that they would understand and I would not have to take any serious measures, but unfortunately, they have left me no choice. I have already filed the restraining order. Now I finally feel like this huge weight has been lifted off me. Sure, I feel a little sad about this, but I have had enough of all this. This was the only way I could have brought peace to me and my family.